There are mistakes in the world of power that are not written in law books, that don't appear in any constitution, and certainly aren't mentioned in the polished speeches about morality or justice. They don't make noise. They don't require swords. They only need tolerance. And the moment you let a wrong action slide, when you turn a blind eye to a tiny fracture in trust, in that very moment, you're writing your own downfall. This isn't a lesson for dreamers. This is not a tale for those who want to live comfortably. This is the raw truth about what destroys empires, what crumbles companies, and what corrupts the soul of any leader who fails to protect what he holds. Because power doesn't just fall. It is eroded, bit by bit, by betrayal, by greed, by those who smile under the lights, but dig graves in the shadows. And if you don't see it, if you don't confront it, you will be devoured, not by the enemies out there, but by the people standing right beside you. Today, we will expose the 7 behaviors that must never be tolerated, the 7 silent poisons that lead to collapse of your throne, your reputation, or your trust. If you're someone who leads, someone others follow, or someone building a life that can't be easily destroyed, stay until the very end. And if what I'm about to say touches a truth you've been denying, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with the men who need to wake up, because sometimes your survival doesn't depend on how strong you are, but on how clearly you see what must never be forgiven. People often say that loyalty can only be measured over time, but Machiavelli went further. He didn't measure loyalty in months or years. He measured it through crisis, because when the sky is clear, anyone can make grand promises. When money is flowing, everyone can pretend to be honorable. But when the ship begins to shake, when the storm rolls in, when blood starts to spill and flames begin to spread, that's when you'll know who truly stands with you and who only stood for the victory. You've seen them, the ones who show up at your celebrations, drink with you, laugh with you, clap your back as if they'd die for you. And then you fail. Your power falters. They vanish as if they never existed. No message, no gesture, just absence and a chilling silence that speaks louder than any word. Even worse is when you survive, when you rise from the ashes, and they come back with apologies wrapped in reasons. I didn't know what to do. I had things to handle. I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure. Don't believe them, because nothing is louder than silence when you needed them most. Someone who can abandon you once will do it again and again. If you let them, if you forgive a betrayal out of weakness, you're sending a silent message to your entire system. There are no consequences for betrayal. And from that moment on, loyalty around you is no longer genuine. It's conditional, based solely on your power. You'll be surrounded by those who don't admire you, but calculate whether you're still worth following. And at that point, you are no longer the leader. You're just another figure being weighed and judged in a storm. You don't need an army. You need one person who will stand beside you when everything is collapsing. That one person is worth more than 100 who vanish when the winds rise. Machiavelli emphasized, betrayal is not just personal. It is a fracture in the foundation of power, because when your subordinates see that you can be abandoned, they will believe that you are no longer untouchable. And from that moment on, your power is no longer a certainty. It becomes a role waiting for someone else to claim. Remember this: no one stays loyal to a leader left in isolation. And the one who disappears when you need them most will be the first to stab you in the back when you're at your weakest. They'll wear your colors, sit at your table, nod in your presence, but vanish when their strength was needed the most. You might think, they probably had a good reason, but Machiavelli would look you in the eye and say, absence is a statement. It doesn't need words. It is a choice. And that choice is never accidental. So when you call and no one answers, when you fall and no one reaches out, don't seek reasons. Remember faces. And if you survive the storm, never let those faces return to their old positions. Because every time you forgive someone like that, you're writing a new rule for everyone else. You don't have to be loyal. Just return at the right time. That's not how you build an empire. That's how you rot it from the inside out. There is nothing more dangerous than a coward sitting on a throne. You might think that ruthless enemies are the greatest threat. You might believe it's secret conspiracies or betrayals in the shadows that destroy empires. But no. Machiavelli made it clear the fastest way to dismantle a kingdom is to place a leader in charge who fears his own power. Cowardice doesn't always show itself through trembling hands. It's not just downcast eyes or hesitant steps. It often hides behind fake morality, camouflaged as careful deliberation, wrapped in the excuse of needing more time to discuss. But in reality, it's the avoidance of responsibility. It's hesitation when the moment calls for action. It's the quiet fear that one wrong decision could cost everything. A leader like that doesn't just destroy his own credibility. He spreads doubt through every level beneath him. When the man at the top refuses to command, when his eyes constantly search for others to make the call, when even the smallest decisions need unanimous agreement, those who follow will stop believing in his leadership. And when trust collapses, you don't need enemies. The kingdom will tear itself apart. Imagine you're a general on the battlefield. The enemy is closing in. You look up at your commander and you see him hesitating, second-guessing, stalling, while every second that passes could cost lives. Would you still believe in him? Or would you start thinking about your own exit plan? That's how fear spreads like a sickness. It seeps from the top down, and it shatters order. Machiavelli understood this. Every second of hesitation in a leader is a knife to the heart of the system. An army doesn't fear its enemies. It fears a commander who doesn't know what to do. Leadership is not about waiting for certainty. It's the art of acting in the midst of doubt. No one can guarantee the right decision, but strength means taking the risk when it matters. And in that very moment, when every eye is watching, when silence hangs heavy in the air, the true leader steps forward and says, "Move forward," not because he's fearless, but because he knows if he shows fear, everything falls apart. Some people fake morality to hide their fear of action. They speak of peace, of moderation, of ethics. But look closer. They're not afraid of doing the wrong thing. They're afraid of doing the right thing because it's hard. They don't sit back to think. They sit back to run from responsibility. A true leader doesn't hide behind councils, doesn't bury himself in endless meetings, doesn't wait for someone else to decide for him. He knows this power doesn't belong to the one waiting for certainty. It belongs to the one bold enough to act without it. Because that's the only thing that keeps power alive in a world that never stops shifting action. Decisiveness. Clarity. If you want to keep your throne, if you want to keep their trust, you must learn to act first and explain later. And above all else, never let fear disguise itself as calm restraint. People may respect a ruthless leader, but they will despise the one who doesn't have the courage to lead. There's a certain type of person who never disagrees with you. They always nod, always praise, always say, "You're right." And strangely enough, they are the sweetest danger in the halls of power. Machiavelli wasn't afraid of the enemy in front of him. He feared the one standing behind him, the one who kept telling him how great he was. Because enemies keep you alert. But flatterers lull you into illusion. Flattery is a form of poison. It doesn't kill instantly. It slowly erodes your judgment, destroys your inner strength, and turns a leader into a puppet of his own inflated ego. Flatterers aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to the opportunity of being near power. They don't tell you what you need to hear. They tell you what you want to hear. And once you start enjoying it, you lose the truth. You think you're being supported. But really, you're surrounded by mirrors, reflections of yourself, where every opposing voice is drowned out by fake applause. A true leader doesn't need sweet words. He needs warnings. He needs people who have the courage to say, "You're wrong." True loyalty can be uncomfortable. It dares to challenge. It dares to push back. It says the things you don't want to hear because it cares about your survival. But flattery is a subtle form of manipulation. It doesn't stab you. It disorients you. It strips away your standards. It makes you lose the ability to assess yourself. When a leader becomes addicted to praise, he becomes blind to the dangers closing in, because no one dares to warn him. No one dares to confront him. No one wants to ruin the praise party. And then, when the shock hits, when power collapses, those who once praised you will be the first to turn away, because they were never loyal to you. They were loyal to the strength you once had. And when that strength disappears, they will switch sides with the same flattery, the same face, the same voice. Machiavelli warned, never confuse a flatterer with a loyal ally. A loyal person might make you uncomfortable, but they will never let you self-destruct. A flatterer, once you fall from your throne, will vanish, or worse, will lead your execution, all while wearing the same soft smile. So take a good look around you. Who always agrees with everything you say? Who has never said no to you? Who always knows the perfect moment to compliment you? That's not an ally. That's a parasite feeding off your pride. If you want to hold on to power, you must be strong enough to hear the truth, and sharp enough to recognize the one who's lying to you in the sweetest way. A compliment at the wrong time can be far more dangerous than a timely objection. Power doesn't just come from weapons, laws, or titles. It exists in the belief that the person in charge is untouchable, a fragile belief, but one that holds entire empires together. And then, all it takes is one mocking laugh in public, one joke made about your orders in front of a crowd, one man bold enough to challenge you not behind closed doors, but under the spotlight. In that moment, your power is cut for the first time. Machiavelli understood this well. A public challenge doesn't have to overthrow you. It just has to plant a seed in other people's minds. If he can speak out, why can't he? A single doubtful glance, a whisper, a rumor, and suddenly, the crowd starts to smell blood. No one attacks you with weapons. They attack with questions. They don't need to lead a rebellion. They just need others to start thinking that you can be replaced. And once people stop believing you're untouchable, they begin testing your limits. They ignore your orders. They criticize you bit by bit. They push boundaries just to see what you'll do. And if you do nothing, if you laugh it off, if you let it slide to preserve your image, if you show tolerance in front of the crowd, you've just lost the most sacred element of power, fear. Power doesn't require senseless cruelty, but it demands that no public defiance goes unpunished, because the cost isn't just an insult, it's the look in the eyes of those around you. It's the mind silently asking, is he really in control? A public challenge left unanswered doesn't just cost you respect, it gives every other rebel permission to follow suit. And just like that, you're no longer leading. You're on a stage where every word you say is being weighed, where others begin to play the role of critic to steal the spotlight. And you, the one who once directed the play, are now just another supporting actor in your own power game. Some will disguise themselves in morality, saying they only want to improve the kingdom, that they're not against you, they're just speaking the truth. Don't be fooled. Anyone who publicly places their virtue above your authority is quietly claiming they deserve to rule instead of you. Don't be distracted by eloquent words. Don't be deceived by the crowd's silence, because if you allow it, if you don't act, you've handed your challenger the most powerful weapon, precedent. And once a precedent is set, it becomes a path for every other opportunist waiting in the wings. A protest left unpunished is a public license for the next one. You don't need to crush every disagreement. You don't need to punish private opinions. But any public defiance must be addressed. Not out of ego, but because every eye is on you. They're not listening to your words. They're watching how you react when challenged. And from that, they decide whether you're the true leader or just a man desperately clinging to a throne that's already slipping. If this message speaks to a truth you felt but never voiced, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to follow the next part. In the world of power, your enemy is not always the one who opposes you. Sometimes, it's the one you once saved, the one you lifted with your heart and your influence, the one you believed in. And when the storm hits, they're the first to drive the knife into your back. Machiavelli warned us, nothing erodes power faster than ingratitude. Why? Because ingratitude is not just forgetting a debt. It is a silent declaration that your kindness no longer matters, that what you gave, what you sacrificed, what you protected is not worth remembering, not worth loyalty. And that is the coldest form of betrayal. No swords, no noisy, just silent withdrawal. When you are at your weakest, the ungrateful feel no guilt. They feel entitled. They don't see loyalty as a moral bond. They see it as a transaction. And when the transaction ends, they believe they owe you nothing. Worse, if they see your position shaking, they won't just walk away. They will use their former closeness to you to align themselves with your enemies. With whispers like, "I used to be close to him. I know where to strike." And do you know the most painful part? You opened the door for them. You trusted them. You gave them a platform. Now, they stand tall enough to tear down everything you built. Machiavelli never told us to stop giving. But he did warn us never invest in barren ground. Never grant mercy to those who lack gratitude, lack integrity, and lack principle. Mercy isn't just kindness. It is a tool for building influence. When given to the right person, it creates an ally. When given to the wrong one, it feeds a parasite that corrodes trust from within. Because the ungrateful are loyal to no one. They're loyal to gain. They take, they use, they consume, but they never protect. They never preserve. And they never return loyalty. You'll see them everywhere. When you're at the top, they swarm like bees to honey. Their words overflow with gratitude. Their actions make you feel like you're the most important person in the world. But when you fall, when the spotlight fades, you'll watch them disappear faster than the words "thank you." And if you're lucky enough to rise again, they'll come back. Same face, same voice. But this time, with a new plan to drain your trust even further. Machiavelli advised, never let gratitude become hope. Let it become a test. And once the test fails, never test again. The ungrateful do not change. They just become better at hiding. So how do you recognize them? Watch how they react when you stop giving. They distance themselves. They go cold. They stop caring. Because to them, you only have value as long as you have something to offer. When a leader tolerates ingratitude, when you continue to feed traitors, you don't just lose resources. You lose the foundation of your power, because the one you raised up knows your weak points, knows how you think, knows you're quick to forgive, and they'll use that very knowledge to finish you. Remember this, gratitude cannot be demanded. But ingratitude must be punished. Never give a second chance to the one who once betrayed you. Because if you do, the entire court, the entire organization, the entire world will learn this. Treason isn't dangerous. Failure is. If this message hits a truth you felt before, if you've been disappointed by those you once helped, hit subscribe, because we still have more to uncover about power, about people, and about awakening. And I want you here when we expose what's hiding behind the mask. Ambition, in itself, is not a bad thing. Machiavelli once said, "Ambition is the engine of empires. It pushes the mediocre to rise. It gives the weak the courage to break through their limits. It is the fire inside a man who wants more than fate has handed him." But when ambition is not paired with loyalty, it stops being a force of construction and becomes a hidden blade aimed at the heart of power. A man with ambition and no ties belongs to no one, serves no one, respects no one. He may perform brilliantly, he may speak well, please every faction, remain neutral in every dispute. But that neutrality is a mask. Beneath it is a soul loyal only to himself. This is not someone you can trust. This is an opportunist waiting for his moment. He doesn't rebel. He watches. He doesn't strike head-on. He records your every mistake, every weakness you reveal when you step back, when you hesitate in a meeting, or when you foolishly believe, "Everyone here is on my side." And then, when the moment comes, when the throne starts to tremble, when doubt creeps into the hearts of men, he will be the first to rise. As the new solution, he doesn't want to serve power. He wants to replace it. If you're in charge, and you spot a man with exceptional talent, a powerful will, but no long-term commitment, no visible loyalty, be careful. You have only two options. Either bind him tightly to your destiny, or destroy him before he becomes a threat. Because once he grows strong enough and slips beyond your control, his very existence becomes a danger to your reign. These men are masters of hiding. They never openly disagree. They never speak too loudly. They never show their cards. They're so polished, you mistake them for harmless. But in truth, they're waiting for your slip. They'll help you only when it helps them. And when you truly need them, they vanish. You'll notice them rejecting compliments in public, but seeking validation behind closed doors. They avoid commitment, but they're always present when power is shifting hands. They are like shadows, silent, patient, and never gone. Machiavelli taught us, never let ambitious men roam free for too long. Tie them down with interest, fear, and a future that is bound to yours. If you can't control them, never let them rise. Don't be fooled by skill. Don't be blinded by temporary usefulness. Because no matter how brilliant he is, a man without loyalty is a ticking time bomb in your kingdom. Ask yourself, will this man still stand with me if I lose my power? If your answer is I'm not sure, he's not an ally. He's a candidate for your throne. And when that day comes, he won't steal your power with noise. He'll take it, as if he deserved it all along. If you've ever known someone like this, charming, neutral, always in the middle, yet you could never quite grasp where their loyalty lies, leave a comment. You're not alone. And if what you've just heard made you see certain people around you in a different light, subscribe to this channel. Because this isn't the final video. We've still got many secrets to uncover about power, betrayal, and how to stay awake among those who smile, but are only waiting for you to fall. Some people never raise their voices. They don't carry swords. They don't threaten, rebel, or openly oppose. And yet, they still manage to bring down the strongest of empires. not with violence, but with a weapon called morality. Machiavelli saw this dangerous game long before it became common. He understood that when morality is used as a tool to attack power, it's no longer about integrity. It becomes the mask of ambition. There are people who march under banners of justice. They speak of transparency, compassion, kindness. But look closely, they don't care about truth. They care about who sits on the throne. Why? Because when they stand up to challenge you on moral grounds, they don't just want change. They want your place. It's the oldest trick in politics to win the people by asking seemingly innocent questions. Is he truly a good man? Don't we deserve a better leader? They don't want answers. They want doubt. And once a leader is forced to explain, to justify, to prove his innocence, his authority is already shaking. A ruler should not be chosen because he is moral, but because he is strong, decisive, and able to maintain order. But moral manipulators know this. Society prefers nice over effective, so they use the crowd's expectations of goodness to target those in power. They create an impossible ideal, then condemn you for not matching it. They will say, you're heartless, that you lack compassion, that you've grown cold toward the people, all while secretly counting the days until they can take your place. And the most dangerous part, if you respond, you're seen as a tyrant. If you stay silent, you're seen as guilty. That's the trap. You're not allowed to win, only lose in small pieces, or all at once. This is why Machiavelli warned, never let morality become the rope that tightens around your throne. Never let the crowd believe that a teary speech can force you to surrender your position. Because once you give moral judgment emotional power over authority, then tomorrow, anyone who can pretend to feel for the people can replace you. When you allow one person to weaponize morality against you, you're not just facing a single enemy. You've triggered a wave. Others will follow. They'll learn the script. They'll realize you don't need justice. You just need to perform. You don't have to be cruel to the truly ethical. But if someone pretends to be virtuous just to destroy you, you cannot afford to be soft. Don't let poetic speeches distract you from the truth. Real morality is usually quiet. Fake morality always needs an audience. The truly ethical will speak to you in private. They will advise you quietly. But the one who gets on a stage to call you out in front of the crowd is not there to correct you. They are there to replace you. And if you don't act, if you keep tolerating these saints with a taste for preaching, your throne will turn into a podium for someone else's performance. If you've ever been manipulated by someone using morality to control you, to shame you, to make you feel guilty for not doing what they deemed right, leave a comment below. We need to call this game by its real name. And if you want to dive deeper into the psychological strategies used to bring strong people down, hit subscribe, because there's still so much you haven't heard, and maybe no one had the courage to tell you until now. We've just walked through 7 behaviors that, according to Machiavelli, no leader should ever tolerate. Not because they're loud or obvious, but because they quietly destroy power from within. Betrayal during crisis, revealing that loyalty only exists when the weather is calm. Cowardice in leadership, turning a strong organization into a lost battalion. Flattery disguised as loyalty, lulling the leader into a false dream. Public challenges to authority, breaking the illusion of invincibility that power needs to survive. Ingratitude after mercy, twisting kindness into a weakness to exploit. Ambition without loyalty, creating challengers dressed as assistants. And finally, using morality as a weapon, turning the image of the leader into a defendant standing before the emotional court of the crowd. If you're leading, if you're building, if you're in a position others look up to, etch this into your mind. True power doesn't come from being liked. It comes from knowing exactly what cannot be forgiven. Because the moment you tolerate a betrayal, a sycophant, a public challenge, an act of ingratitude, you're not just forgiving a person. You're writing a new law for everyone else, watching. And when the time comes for you to act, you may find you have no army, no allies, no one truly loyal, because they all learned one thing from you. You did nothing. Loyalty isn't required. Only good timing is. That's not how empires are built. That's how they rot from the inside out. Under the softness of a leader, too afraid to draw a line. Machiavelli never taught you to be cruel. He taught you to see clearly, because power, if not protected with sharp vision, will be eaten alive by those smiling at your side. Collapse doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the things you chose to ignore. So, watch closely. Learn the difference between true and false loyalty. Punish early so you don't have to punish often. And never let your throne become a hot seat for anyone bold enough to challenge you in the name of virtue. If you're still here by the end of this video, I believe you're not the kind of man who gets manipulated by smiles or tears. You want to see the truth behind people. You want to keep your position not by being nice, but by standing firm and uncompromising. Hit that subscribe button, because we will keep exposing the masks, breaking down the psychology of power, and learning how to become the kind of man who cannot be overthrown in a world where kindness is seen as weakness, and strength is the only thing still respected.